Shree Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Sindhuraruna Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Maulispurat Taranayaka Shekharam Smitamukhim Apina Makshuruham Panibhyam Alipurna Ratna Chashakam Raktotpalam Vibhratim Saumyam Ghasratna Katastha Rakta Charanam Dhyayet Param Ambikam. Welcome to all for this session on Lalitopakhyanam. In the previous parts of this, in the previous chapters, we have seen Sati Devi having been humiliated by Daksha Prajapati, her father. She left the body, burning it in the fire, and then, on hearing this news, Shiva turned into a great anger and he was filled with the rage for the destruction of Daksha Prajapati and his Yagashala. Thus, filled with rage in every cell of his body, Lord Shiva rubbed the flaming sweat from his forehead and matted hair and struck the ground with it in one fierce movement of grim determination. As it touched the earth, it burst into a mighty flare, and lo, there appeared on the spot a majestic form almost touching the firmament. It was no other than the great Veerabhadra Ganeshwara, whose every limbs were formed with Kalagni, the all-destructive flame of Pralaya. His brows were knit and his hair, like so many flaming virulent snakes, flashed out streaks of blinding lightning. Duly prostrating himself before Lord Shiva with 8 parts of his prone body touching the earth in great humility and reverence, he addressed his Creator and Father thus: O Lord of Lords, Lord of all the 3 worlds, command your servant. I shall accomplish whatever you biddest me, you want me to do. Through your grace, there is nothing impossible for me to accomplish. May I crush the trembling earth to fragments. May I drink the 7 oceans dry, or shall I swallow the 3 worlds? Order me, but by a sign of thine eyebrows, that means by the sign of your eyebrows, and I shall accomplish the impossible. Lord Shiva listened to him with appreciation and said, Go, my son, go to Daksha's place and destroy his Yagna shala mercilessly. He has insulted me and done me great harm. He is haughty with extreme egoism and blinded by his power. Go now and work destruction on his Yagnashala also. Thus directed, Veerabhadra prostrated before his father again and taking leave left Kailasha and turned his face towards Daksha's abode. As he moved, every hair and every pore of his body produced a fierce monster with bloodshot eyes and a large nose, ears, and a mouth with fearful teeth. Millions of them thus came into beings, and the very firmament seemed to be but one cluster of powerful arms holding millions of weapons of war. These new Pramathagana set up a thousand thunderous roar in the skies and seemed capable of breaking up the ether and scorching the entire earth. With this awe-inspiring host following him, Veerabhadra approached the Yagnashala of Daksha and gave them leave to surrender and invade the place. As the ocean's deluge swallows up the fierce and roaring flames of Pralaya at the end of Kalpa, so these millions of Pramathaganas swooped on the place from all sides, startled out of their wits at this sudden onrush of death and destruction, and aghast at the fierce and awful form of Veerabhadra. approaching like a mountain, some of the Brahmanas and Devas yelled out in panic and rushed pell-mell, trying to escape from sure death. Some began to weep helplessly, some fainted then and there, some just stared awestruck with open mouth, some could not move as their knees had become suddenly weak with fright. Even the bravest of the Devas considered Veerabhadra invincible and tried to disappear in all manner of ways. Some turned themselves into harmless little birds and flew away. Some turned into cats or took other forms and escaped slyly. There was none left to tend the home of fire or to look after the sacrificial vessels and other materials, for even the rishis had fled in haste. Some cast their physical bodies away as being an obstruction and fled in their subtle bodies. All of them cursed Daksha for this false pride and foolishness which had brought on this unexpected doom from the wrathful Rudra, not on Daksha alone, but on all that had wooed his company. Indra himself became a peacock and escaped in great fear. Even the Yagna Purusha tried to flee in the shape of an animal, but it was too late, for Veerabhadra had spied him and was after him. Veerabhadra aimed an arrow at him and struck off his head so that the sprouting blood flowed away and covered the floor of Yagnashala. This shrewd and quick act of Veerabhadra earned him the name Kratudvamsa, Kratudvamsi, the destroyer of sacrifice. After thus dealing with the Yagna as per Lord Shiva's directions, Veerabhadra entered the interior of the Yagashala. There he saw Adithya, the sun, blazing forth in great effulgence on his chariot. Veerabhadra rushed up to him and seizing him by the hair of his head, pulled Arka, our son, to the ground and hit his head so hard that the latter broke his teeth and lay in pool of blood. Leaving the bleeding and toothless Pusha, means son alone, Veerabhadra betook himself to the moon Chandrama, pulled him down to the earth as though he were a little baby animal, and stepped upon him so that he was all but squeezed out, with but a flicker of life in him. Having become just a crescent of moon, he begged Sharanu protest protection of Veerabhadra in such feeble tones that Veerabhadra let him go. Lord Shiva also was pleased with the crescent moon for his humility and then henceforth wore him as an ornament on his head, becoming himself known thenceforward as Chandrachuda or Chandramaulishwara. This is the reason why Chandra is worn on the head of Shiva and he is known as Chandrachuda because the one whom he is wearing was a crescent moon, which is basically the squeezed moon. Burning with anger still, Veerabhadra spied Saraswati Devi, who instantly let go her veena in great fear. Nevertheless, he disfigured her nose and rushed up to the god of fire. Catching hold of Agni Deva, he chopped off both his hands with his khadga, for these hands were the carriers of all sacrificial offerings of the Devas. So this is how exactly the Shiva, who is wrath with the rage of fire, that had led to the birth of Veerabhadra, and Veerabhadra created several Pramathaganas from his body, and all of them rushed towards the Daksha's Yagnashala, and on their way they uh, they hit sun god and they also squeeze the moon god, and then he chop off the hands of Agnideva, and he caused a great destruction in that Yagnashala. ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಶಾರದಾ ದೇವಿ ಕಾಶ್ಮೀರಪುರವಾಸಿನಿ ತ್ವಾಮಹಂ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥಯೇ ನಿತ್ಯಂ ವಿದ್ಯಾದಾನಂಚ ದೇಹಿ ಮೇ. ಗುಡ್ ಬೈ.